Hi everyone, it's Wendy from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I've got a really fun vellum overlay card to show you. And this particular design would be perfect for some of your larger images where there's a lot of open space inside. As you can see with these tumblers, I have a lot of space to color those in. It'd also be great with your florals and again some of your larger images. So let's take a look at building the card base. I'm going to need a piece of sheer vellum paper, and I will list and link all these products down below for you and also on my blog. And then I've got a piece of Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. Both of these measure 8.5 by 5.5, and I'm going to score these at 4.25. So we'll end up with a standard A2 size card, which will measure 4.25 by 5.5. So let's go ahead and fold these two. And I'm going to use a bone folder just to press those out nicely. And then what we're going to do is lay that vellum right over the top of our cardstock. So you do want something lighter underneath. You can certainly do it with a darker cardstock, but I find you really get a nice pop when you put the white or cream behind it. So let's lay out our vellum nice and flat on the table, and then I'm going to use the Stay Hydrated set from Art Impressions. And you can see this set is really cute. You get this little lady holding a tumbler, and she can put any of those little designs on her tumbler that she wants to. It's got some great coordinating sentiments, and it also has the coordinating dies as well. So I'm going to grab that tumbler to get started. And I've got my watercolor travel box, which has the 3 acrylic blocks in it. And we're going to be using all 3 of those today. Let's grab that largest one. And then I've marked that center point on the front panel with a little pencil mark. And then I've got my Staz-on. This is a permanent ink. You could emboss it, but this will also work on the vellum because it will dry permanently on the front of the card. So what we have to do is just ink it up, stamp it onto the vellum. I like to hold it down for a second or two just to make sure I make a nice transfer onto the vellum paper, because this surface is a little more slick. It's not quite as absorbent as your regular cardstock, so you do want to give that ink a little bit of time to transfer. And then what we're going to do is let this sit, or we can heat set it with our heat tool. I am not going to emboss this, but you certainly could use some white embossing powder if you wanted that look. That will give you a little bit more sheen on the top of your little tumblers. And you do want to keep your table clean as you're doing this, because you don't want to transfer any of that ink onto the vellum cardstock. So I've just got a little towel there, and I'm just going to wipe the table clean as I go along. So you can see that I've got all 6 of my little tumblers across the, sort of towards the bottom of this panel. And again, I'm just going to clean up and then let that sit and dry, or heat set it with your heat tool. Now with violet, deep blue, blue, May green, bright yellow, scarlet red, and carmine red, we're going to start to color these in. I did put a little footnote up there that I didn't end up using the deep blue, so I set that one aside. Now I colored one in first just so I could show you what it looks like when it's colored in. And the key to this is coloring from the back side of the vellum. So you're going to flip that vellum over. We're going to go to the back side, and we're going to do our blending back here. Now I am using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and I'm using my blender pen to do my blending. I am removing some of that ink that I got on the white area because it will kind of show through. So you do want to stay within the lines as much as possible. And then I'm cleaning off my pen just so that I can get some of those highlights in here. The vellum paper, again, is not as absorbent as your regular cardstock. So that ink is going to float up on top of the vellum paper a little bit longer. So you do want to make sure that you blend it out and then remove any excess. So here you'll see me just go to my scrap paper and remove that excess. So this, again, we can do our shadowing and shading from the back area. There again, I'm going to clean off any excess that I got on that white area. And to do that, I'm just lifting it off the cardstock and scribbling it onto my scrap paper. And then for each of these, I'll give the straw a little bit of a striped effect using that same color. And then we'll do the handles. And for the little toppers on each of these, I'm going to go to Cool Gray number 3. And I'll just give it a little shadow on each side with the gray and then pull it in towards the center. And I'm just going for a rainbow effect. So I'm using the rainbow to go across with all my colors. Now your Tombow markers would be great for this technique as well. And there is a Tombow blender pen that you could also use. So if you have the Tombows already, those are a great medium to use for this process. And I'm putting some light paper behind it so you can see how you really can see that shadowing once you have that white cardstock behind it. So then I did the yellow and the green, and then I'll do the blue one on camera again just so you can see one more time what I did. So again, I'm going down each side of the tumbler. And then I'll blend that in towards the center. And with the darker colors, I tend to put a little less ink on each side just because there is so much color. It's so dark that I want to be able to get that highlight down the middle. So again, you see me removing some of that ink. And I'm not going to overblend it because I want to make sure, again, that I get that highlight. There you see me removing some of that blue from that white area again. And then let's go ahead and color in the little handle. This, again, this technique is wonderful for your florals. It's just a really elegant look that you can get if you stamp a big, bold floral on the front of your card and then color it in from the back. It's great for, I've done that technique for wedding invitations, shower invitations, and everybody loves it. It's just really pretty. Very elegant. But I thought I'd show you a fun way to do that because it seems like mostly you see people doing it with the florals because it is so pretty, but I thought I'd show you that it can also be used in just a fun and whimsical way. So the last color I did was the violet, and I'm using my heat tool because it has a low heat to it to heat set that entire panel. So now you can see that when that's laid over our white cardstock, we're going to get that beautiful highlighting. So going to the birds and bugs set, I'm going to take the little butterflies from this set, and this set does have the coordinating dies, which is really great because they are so tiny, so it makes it really easy to cut these out. I'm going back to the Staz-on Snowflake white ink, and I'm going to stamp these. I'm going to stamp about 6 of the large one and 6 of the smaller one. And I'm using that medium-sized acrylic block to do that. And then for the smaller butterfly, I'm using that smallest acrylic block. And again, these come in your little watercolor travel box, which also has a little palette in there. And it's a great place to store some of your markers or your paint brushes, whatever you like to use the most. So again, from the back side, I'm just simply going to color these in a rainbow of colors. I'm not going to be fussy. No really blending or anything. I'm just simply going to color them in because they are so tiny. So I'm doing this from the back side of the vellum just like we did before. I'll quickly heat set those, and then I'll grab those coordinating dies and my post-it tape, which is just a temporary tape that will hold the dies in place while I run these through my Spellbinders Platinum Scout machine. So do take a little time to line those up. And then I ran all of these through, or the rest of these through off camera. And so I have a nice collection of these that we can use we're going to scatter these around the front of the card, kind of in the same rainbow order that we did the little tumblers, just to add a little bit more interest and dimension to the front of our card. So let's go ahead and grab a piece of scrap paper. I've got some white scrap paper. I want you to be able to see that coloring from the back side. And I also didn't want the vellum paper to get dirty on my Wendy Vecchi Make Art station, which is a magnetic station. Then I've got my little alphabet set from Art Impressions, and I'm going to stamp the word Cheers in these little tumblers. So I've grabbed the C, and I'm going back to that same Staz-on ink, and we'll go ahead and stamp these. And this was really fun to do. You could use your MISTI stamp positioner, but I found it just as easy to grab each of my little letters and stamp them one at a time. And again, I do recommend holding that down for a little bit while that ink transfers to your vellum. I do find that if you do that, you have a lot more success with stamping on the vellum, because it can be a little tricky because, again, it's a little bit more of a slick surface. So you do want to go straight up and down when you're stamping on the vellum. You want to go straight down and lift straight up. You don't want to slide it around at all. So you might want to practice on a scrap piece of vellum paper before you get started. But once you get the hang of it, it's really easy to do. So let's do the letter S and finish this up. And now you can see how cute this is starting to come together. So next I want to decorate my little tumblers. And I'm using the 1.5 and then the letter B Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens. And you can see that I have two different nibs on these. So I'm going to start with that little bullet tip. And I'm going to add some little polka dots. And again, I want to kind of go straight up and down when I'm adding these dots. And I will hold that pen down for a second or two just to make sure I get a nice transfer of ink. Now these Pitt Artist pens do dry permanently, so you don't have to worry about it smudging. I will heat set it, but it will dry permanently on that vellum. And then with this tip, this is the B, I'm going to add some little stripes down at the bottom section of the tumbler. I'll do the same thing on this one. And then for that green one, I'll just go on an angle with my stripes. And I think this adds a lot to your card. It just adds a lot more interest, a little bit more fun and whimsical. And then I've got this little scallop border. And I've got some cardstock that measures 5.5 by about 1.25 inches. This is from the Journal Template Die Set, which I know I've shown you guys a million times. It's got tons of dies in it to create your journals, but I'm going to just use this little scallop edge. And again, this is about 5.5 by 1.25 inches. And I'm going to lay that border right along that edge. That way I'll be sure that it's nice and straight. Taping it down with a little bit of Post-it tape. And then I'll run that through the Spellbinder Scout machine. And you can see it didn't go all the way across. So what I'm going to do is lay that border down again. I'm just kind of locking it into place with a couple of those scallops on the end that I've already die cut. And then once I get that positioned right along that edge, I'll tape this down very securely and run that through the die cutting machine. And that will cut the complete border that we need. So this is a great way to extend those little borders if they're not quite long enough. Then I want to stamp my sentiment. So I'm going to grab that sentiment from that same set. And that says, "Stay fabulous and carry a big tumbler," which is really cute. So I'm going back to all of those colors that we used for the little tumblers. And we're going to color the sentiment in this rainbow of colors. And I'm sorry that my image is just a little bit too high, but you can see what I'm doing. I'm coloring in the sentiment with each of these colors, and I'm letting them kind of butt up against each other. So I'm overlapping the colors as I go along. And I'm going in that rainbow color. And I'm trying to make sure I have enough room to do all of those colors, and then I can go ahead and stamp this. Now, full disclosure, I did that a couple of times, so I had to do it about 3 times. Just go back over that sentiment with those same colors and stamp as many times as you need to so you get that complete perfect stamping. So let's take some 1/4" double-sided tape. We'll add it to the top of that scallop border. And I'm just using my Cricut weeding tool to remove that backing. And then we'll place this right at the very top. So I'm just lining that up with that top edge. And now let's open this up and place that tape on the inside. Basically in the same place that we have it on the outside of the card. And then our white card will get attached to this. So when you're dealing with vellum, you want to find a way to hide your adhesive. So we're hiding it behind this little scallop border. I'm going to place my card right inside, and then I can close this, and that'll attach these 2 pieces together. And that's all you need to hold these 2 together. We will be adding some ribbon later on, but it's really just for a decorative effect. But I will say that you could just use ribbon and attach these 2 pieces together. So you could just tie some ribbon up at the top, and the vellum and the cardstock will stay together nicely. So that's another way to do this. But for ours, we've attached it with this little border, so it's going to stay together. And then I'm going to grab those little butterflies. If you pinch it with your tweezers right in the middle, and then just push those little wings up, you can get some dimension on those. Add a little bit of the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive right down the center, and then attach it to your card. And I'm just going to scatter these around in that same rainbow color. So this was really fun to do. You could add anything you wanted here, some little bees, some little gems. We will also be adding some gems. So whatever you like, you could scatter some little hearts. So let's go ahead and get a few more of these attached. And you see that I have quite a few left over. So we're going to use one of those up in the upper right-hand corner of the sentiment a little bit later on. So I've got some iridescent ribbon, and I'm going to just tie that into a bow. And I've had this ribbon in my stash for a while, but I will link down below something that's very similar. So if I don't have the particular products that I'm showing you, I always try to find something comparable, and I list it and link it down below and also on my blog. So I tied a nice little bow, and I'm going to clip away the excess kind of on an angle. And then I'm going to use these really pretty Pinkfresh Studio gems, and they're kind of an iridescent. So it's going to pick up the colors around it. So in this case with this rainbow, I think that's going to be really pretty. I'm going to scatter those all around, and then I'm using that same Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and my little pickup tool to place these onto the front of the card. Again, that's going to add some more interest and a little bit more sparkle, and those iridescent gems will pick up a lot of this color. And as a last little effect, I thought it would be cute to put another little butterfly right next to the sentiment. I'm going to grab that red one and pop that down. With my Wink of Stella clear glitter pen, I'm going to add some glitter to each of the butterflies. And that's going to add a little bit of sparkle. So let's take a look at the finished card. And I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. And there again, you can see all of our coloring was done on the back side. And this is just a really pretty, elegant look that you can get with your vellum. So thanks again for joining me today, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.